to today's class, lesson 3 of LIS 201, theories of classification. In today's lesson, we will be discussing the theory of classification, and we'll define what a theory is, theory of classification, and explain the various types of theory of library classification. I'm excited to have you around, and I hope you enjoyed today's class. Please sit back and listen attentively. Thank you. Welcome all of you to LIS 201, Lesson 3, Theories of Classification. Our previous class, we discussed the various philosophers that developed knowledge classification. Today we want to talk about theories of classification. Once again, I welcome all of you to this class. The objective of this lesson, theories of classification, will include the definition of concepts of theory, understanding of the theory of classification, explaining the types of theories of classification. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to define theory, what a classification or what theory of classification is, and explain the various types of theories of classification that we have. Class activity. Before we commence today's lecture, I want you to respond to this question. What is a theory? What are the two main types of theory of classification? Do you have any idea? The response to that question. How did it go? Did you answer the question correctly? A theory is an organized body of knowledge or principles which controls or guides certain ideas or subjects which can be applied in solving a problem. So, theories are laws, principles that must have gone through different stages of growth and development. They are a set of rules or laws and principles that guide certain things or ideas. Theories of classification. Theory of classification can be seen as formulated rules, laws, and principles or body of knowledge that controls or guides or directs the classifiers on the steps to follow in the grouping of documents into their main classes and their subdivisions of classes for easy identification and use by library users. So the theory of classification is there to direct the classifier. Classifier is someone that actually assign class mark to library materials so that this book or library resources can be easily identified in the library collection. As we said earlier, the theory of classification was developed to help classifiers to solve the daily problems they face in the process of classifying information resources and assigning class mark. There are two main types of theory of library classification, and they include descriptive theory and dynamic theory. What are descriptive theory and dynamic theory? What are they? Theory. Descriptive theory existed in the 1950s, but it is not based on any scientific principles. It is the first theory of library classification and was based on the universe of the subject that existed in the 50s. The following authors were responsible for the development of descriptive theory of library classification: James Duff Brown, Ernest Crouch Richardson, William Henry Bliss, and Ranganathan. So we are going to be looking at these authors that develop descriptive theory. Let's move ahead. James Duff Brown. James Duff Brown was an English librarian whose contribution to the development of theory of library classification through the introduction of three schemes. He developed three schemes, and they include Brown's scheme, adjustable classification, Brown subject classification. The theory was developed to help classifiers solve daily problems. We agree? But Brown theory of classification is based on two approaches. It's to bring subjects with multiple topics together. For example, Christianity should be placed under religion. Another approach is that topics should not be scattered among different academic disciplines. So Brown advocated that subjects and their subdivision should be placed together on one shelf in the library so that it will be easier for users to access those subject material or those information resources easily instead of them to be scattered in various shelves of the library. Cushing Richardson. Ernest Cushing Richardson theory of classification was considered the first systematic approach theory of library classification. His theory of classification was based on laws and principles known as canons. He advocated that classification should be done in an orderly manner, and he believes in using order of things in describing existing knowledge. Wyndham Hume. He was a librarian with Patience Office Library, London. He is popularly known for his theory of literary warrants. The theory of literary warrants states that any existing knowledge must be provided with a class mark. He published a book titled Principle of Book Classification in Library Association Records, and his contributions are in two forms, mechanical and philosophical. He believes that book classification involves mechanical arrangement of information resources into classes. Dynamic theory. Dynamic theory is the second type of theory of library classification. It was developed by S.R. Raghunathan. This was on the basis of the fact that the descriptive theory was not based on any theoretical background, and that was why Raghunathan rejected the library classification scheme designed during the period of the descriptive theory. Raghunathan dynamic theory was based on the development of four ways of classification. The first is the faceted classification. Raghunathan believes that any facet of subject should have should have five categories, and these categories include personality, matter, energy, space, and time. While the analytical synthetic classification, Raghunathan advocated for the use of this approach in knowledge organization because of the deficiencies in Dewey Decimal Classification. One of those deficiencies include not treating specific subjects extensively. That is to say, subjects were not treated in detail. While the depth classification is used in providing unique classification number to any microthought document. Abstract classification also was developed by Raghunathan, and it's made up of three classes: artificial abstract classification, accidental abstract classification, and purely abstract classification. In summary, we have discussed the different classifications that develop each theory of library classification. And the essence of the development of this theory was to help classifiers to solve the daily problems they face in the process of classifying information resources and assigning class mark to information resources in the library. So classification theories are rules and regulations or guiding principles that are developed by classification. The laws and principles are aimed at achieving the objective of organizing library materials for easy access and use. Q&A, question and answer section. Do you have any question as regards what we discussed today about the various theories of library classification? If you do have any question, kindly send me an email and I promise I'll respond immediately. omayowa-adebara@now.edu.ng. For me, it's a bye for now. This is the end of lesson 3, theories of classification. Have a wonderful day.